Hello friends, welcome to the next video of AFS. I am Dr. Rusbe Bodanwala, and in this video we'll discuss how to read fact sheets of mutual fund houses. I have picked up fact sheets of 3 mutual fund houses: Hdfc Mutual Fund, ICICI Prudential Mutual Fund and SBI Mutual Fund. For a retail investor, it is very important to learn how to read a fact sheet because we keep on investing money, but we find it really difficult to understand how much return has our investments generated because a lot of times these fact sheets contains too many jargons which we find too heavy to understand. For example, we find it difficult to understand what is an NAV, what is a direct plan versus what is a regular plan, what is an expense ratio, what is beta, what is this Sharpe ratio. If all this interests you, please stay on. I have chosen 3 funds, and I have chosen 3 funds on the basis of that these 3 fund houses are the biggest fund houses in India. So let's understand the fact sheet of Hdfc Flexi Cap Fund published on January 29, 2021. All these 3 fact sheets have been published at the end of January 2021. The first thing that the fact sheet contains is something about the investment objective. The second thing you would find is about the fund manager and since how long has he been managing the funds. The third, as you see, is the inception date, and the fourth thing that you see is the NAV, which is the most important thing. Please remember, all funds when they are launched at their face value of, let's say, 10 rupees. As the fund invests the money in the share market and the returns of the share are captured, the value of the fund increases. When the value of fund increases and it is divided by the number of units, we get what is called as a net asset value. As you can see, the net asset value of regular plan growth option is 718 and the direct plan growth option is 763. Now you would have a question as to why the direct plan has a higher NAV. Please remember, direct plans will always have a higher NAV because the expense rate is lower. Now let's understand what is the difference between the regular plan and the direct plan and the way of investing. Regular plan is a plan which is applicable when you invest in Hdfc Flexi Cap Fund using some another broker. So obviously the broker is giving you service and thus the higher expenses. Now since this is clear, let's understand the growth option and the dividend option. Dividend option means that the fund regularly gives dividends to its shareholders. So since the fund gives dividend to its unit holders, the NAV will obviously be lower. And the growth option is an category where the dividends are not given, but the dividends are reinvested. Now let's understand what is this beta and the Sharpe ratio. Beta is nothing but how your fund would move as compared to the movement in the index. So when the beta is 1, it means that your performance of the fund is very closely linked to the performance of the index. So if the index tomorrow moves up by 10%, this fund would, the value of the NAV of the fund will also move up by 10%. But please remember, it cuts both the sides. So if the index goes down by 5%, the fund also goes down by 5%. Now this is the most crucial part, the regular and the direct. The regular plan load is 1.73, whereas the direct plan load is 1.18. Now please remember, this number is a very small number and for you it may not mean much, but I will explain to you that what does the difference cost you in the long run. Sharpe ratio is nothing but the risk adjusted ratio, and the higher the ratio, the better it is. So as you can see over here, there are 2 categories of returns given. One is a return on the basis of SIP, and the second is a return if you invest a lump sum amount. Obviously the returns will be different because in SIP you are investing on a monthly basis, whereas in this category you are investing on a lump sum basis. Now on the Hdfc fact sheet, they have given you regular plan growth option and the regular plan growth option when the investment is made in a different style. We will pick up this table and make a comparison of the 3 funds. However, if you are a SIP investor, you should look at this table. The next and the most important thing is looking at the benchmark returns. If you observe, SEBI has mandated that you can use any benchmark to benchmark the performance depending upon what kind of fund is being benchmarked. So the fund houses are free to choose their benchmark. So this fund house has chosen two benchmarks about which we will talk later. But whenever we are comparing a performance of a fund, we should always compare it with the benchmark. So if we have to look at the 1 year SIP return, this fund has generated a return of 54.26%, whereas the benchmark has generated a return of 53.73%, which means this fund has given you a higher return. Let's look at the performance of SBI Flexi Cap Fund. As you can see, the NAVs are given over here, and regular plan dividend option should be compared with direct plan dividend option. So obviously the direct plan, since it has got a lower commission rate, lower expense rate, the NAV would be higher. All mutual fund houses also have to list out what are the portfolios when the fact sheet was prepared. Now let me draw your attention to the word benchmark. This fund house has used the benchmark S&P BSE 500, and the important word here is the total return index TRI. TRI is calculated by assuming that all cash distribution is reinvested. When we look at the index values just captures the price movement, but the total return index is the better measure of comparison. Now let's look at the comparison of the three mutual funds. So what we have done for you is we have put together the performance of all the three funds over the period of 1 year, 5 year, and since inception. If you observe, Hdfc has given you a return of 9%, whereas the benchmark has given you a return of 15.8%. Obviously, the fund has underperformed the benchmark, and if you have to compare across the funds, you have to compare which fund has given you a higher return on a 1 year scale. So as you can see, SBI Flexi Cap has given a higher return, which is 12.4%. Please remember guys, equity investing is a long-term investing. Though it is mandated by SEBI to give you a 1 year, 5 year, and since inception picture, but my personal suggestion is that this 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year is a very short term for equity investing. And one of our research published in the Dalal Street Investment Journal, we have kind of calculated that in equity business, your investment horizon should be 13 years and above. And if that is the case, then there is absolute surety that the returns that you will get from equity investing, which will be higher than the other asset class categories. Now let's look at the 5 year returns. Which of the fund has given a higher return? It is SBI Flexi Cap, which has given a return of 12.9%. Has the fund beaten the benchmark? No, but it is very close. Now let's look at the fund performance since inception. You can very clearly see that Hdfc Flexi Cap Fund growth option has given you a return of 17.8%, which is much higher as compared to the other two funds. And has the fund beaten the benchmark? Yes, absolutely. Please remember guys, when you are investing in mutual funds, please remember that mutual fund businesses are subjected to market risk and historical performances may not be repeated. Now let me take you and explain the last thing, what happens when the expense rates are higher. So we have created two situations. In one situation, since the expense rate is higher, your fund is able to generate a 8% return. And here, the second fund, the expense rates are lower because you are using a direct plan, and hence the returns are 9%. If you invest 10 lakh and the fund grows at 8%, then at the end of 15 years, the value of fund will be close to 31,72,000. But if the fund grows at the rate of 9%, then the value of your fund is 36,42,000. Do you see the difference? What 1% has cost? It is close to 4.7 lakh. So guys, please remember, the expense ratio really matters a lot, and in the long run, it is better that if you want to stick to a fund, stick through the direct plan route. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please share and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.